Welcome to Flipping Miami, a podcast for those who want to learn real estate investing, do more, and make more. Now, here is your host, Raul Bolufe.
Yo, what's up? Raul here, Flipping Miami, another episode. I'm pumped, man. This guy's full of energy, right? Look at him. Smile, dog. So we got Joe Dillon here. He's a wholesaler. The guy's a badass. We've met and we did some partying together, actually. But so we met at almost an unconventional place. But dude, we spoke a lot. Really cool dude. He also, apart from being a wholesaler, he does a lot of coaching. He's coming out with a new program for realtors. He's got his own team. He travels. He lives a pretty awesome life. So I'm passionate about bringing on people who are not only good in real estate, but who are good at living their best life, right? So Absolutely. we got Joe, man. Thanks for coming on.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me, brother. How's everything with you, man?
Bro, all good, man. Trying to make $1.
yeah. Trying to make $1 or $1 million of those, right?
Yeah. So, dude, we'll kind of get into like some of the wholesaling stuff in a bit. I'm sure in this episode there'll be like a ton of good stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
I just want to start with like some of the questions asked. They're not so unconventional, but they're more like a little bit more deep, just so people could see who the person really is. So
for sure.
So, dude, who was Joe Dillon like? I know now you got your team, but who was Joe Dillon like in high school? Maybe like 15, 16 years old. Like what?
Oh man.
Were you shy? Were you outgoing like this, or how
Yeah, you're taking me back, man. You know what? I've never been asked that on a podcast before, but I love that question. So I was when I was in high school, let's say. I don't want this to come off in any way, right? But it definitely shaped my personality. It definitely shaped who I was. But basically, I was always, I guess, part of the popular crew, I guess you could say. And, you know, I knew mostly everybody in high school and middle school, right? Started partying and all that stuff. And my entrepreneurial journey started early, right? Like really early, actually. My first entrepreneurial venture, like I would go to Peru, right? Where my family's from. Okay. Buy these Lacoste polos, right? And I would come back and I would flip them.
So you'd buy Lacoste polos in Peru and then bring them to.
Yeah, and I bought them for like $7 though, right? And clearly they were not real, right? But I was like trying to justify it in my head, and I kind of didn't know that they weren't real because I was like 14 at the time.
Damn.
But then I would come back and I would flip them for like 40, and I would just do like 30, 40, 50 of those.
It's a good margin right there.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Pretty good margins, right?
Those Lacoste polos back in the day. For anybody who's like from 24 to like 26, 27, the Lacoste polos back in the day were.
That's where it was at, man. That's where it was at. It was polo, and then it was Ralph Lauren polos, and then there was Lacoste polos.
Oh, that's sick.
But anyhow, I always had an entrepreneurial spirit, right? Like, I did that, and then one of my bigger ventures, I actually hosted parties when I was 17. Okay, and obviously we're 17 years old, right? In America, right in DC, there's nothing to really do until you're 21 except go to house parties, right? So like, what I would do is I would rent out these places, and I would host these big, huge parties, and it started off small. It started like 100. Well, it wasn't really that small, but it started off like 100 people. And it grew, right? It grew. And eventually, like, there were like 500 people, 600 people at my parties. And I would be charging them $10, $15, $20 to get in. So I was a young kid. I was like 17 years old. And I would be making like $5 to $7 grand a pop, like a night. Wow. Like with like no expenses pretty much, Yeah. What my point being, right? Like all that got to my head, right? Young kid with a lot of ego. Yeah, I was the man, you know what I mean? And it's funny how like later in life, at least for those who are actually self-aware, which that's one of the things that I absolutely live by is self-awareness. At least those people who are self-aware. By the way, if you can hear people in the background, people are cranking right now.
Yeah, you can't stop them.
He's back right there. What's up?
What's up, man?
What's up, man?
So, getting deals?
Okay, sorry. Yeah, we'll record a podcast. So anyhow, so yeah, man. So basically, that's kind of how it started. But what I realized is that, like, in retrospect, that led me to constantly seek for approval, because I was always like that popular kid, and I was always kind of in that light. A lot of my validation came from that.
Yep.
And so, over time, especially in college, after college, like, it wasn't really until my mid-20s that I actually really, really started to, one, become aware of that, and two, start to target that, right? And
gotcha.
That, and then reverse it,
That's sick.
And so, yeah, man. So I've always definitely been outgoing.
So if I would have met you when we were 16, we were in the same high school, because you lived in Washington, you said?
Yeah. Yep. I'm from DC. Yep. From right outside DC, Northern Virginia.
Oh, dope.
Yeah.
So we would have met. You would have been the popular kid throwing parties.
Exactly. Yeah. Which, hey, man, I still love the party. I mean, shit, we partied together in Miami. But I think obviously there's a time and place, right?
Yeah. The reason I asked that question is because people come from different lights, right? I was actually a really shy kid in high school. Like, I was like probably the shyest, right? Like, I always hung out with people. I had friends, but I wasn't outgoing. Like, I wouldn't talk. I wouldn't get out of my comfort zone a lot.
Yeah.
I grew out of it, right? And then some people fall into like that category, that they're always outgoing, and then maybe they get shy or later on, or they. So I like to ask that question, because people are like, some people have when I talk to them, almost like a box of what a successful person might look like.
Yeah.
You have to be an entrepreneur from when you were 3. It's like, it's not always like that. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. Like, in fact, like, I actually enjoy those stories a lot more. Like, hey, there was a turning point, right?
Yeah.
And it was like but here's the thing, like, there's something beautiful about every person's story, right? Everybody needs to own their own story. And whatever that is, like the reality is, like, your perception is reality. Your perception is what drives meaning to you. Yeah. What drives meaning and that's it. That's all that matters,
Yeah, dude. So all right. So you're getting out of high school. You finish throwing these, you're throwing these parties, making some money, and then what happens, like, when you're leaving high school? What's like the next, like, chapter that happened in your life after that?
All right. So basically, after high school, I went to college, right? Okay. Here's the thing too. I was always like a high achiever in school.
Oh, okay.
Because I came from, like, my family didn't really know much about college. I didn't really have any guidance when it came to that, and so I always wanted to achieve. I wanted to to get to that next level consistently. And so, I was looking forward to college, right? And so I was in AP classes. Like, I got a 3.9 GPA in school, so I was like a pretty good student, But and so I went to Cornell, and
good school.
What's up?
Good school.
Yeah. What's crazy though? It was on a social level. It was a completely different experience, because I'm used to my own, my bubble. I'm used to, like, place where I'm popular.
Yeah.
Place with like 40,000 people, you're just like it's just like,
yeah, you're just a number.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Almost. And it's like, and it was hard for me to kind of find my circle, like the people that I actually spend time with in college. But
that's interesting. Especially in a school like that all those like 40,000 people, a big majority of them are like high achievers already.
Yeah, for sure. And then they all come from, I mean, you're talking about Cornell, right? So Ivy League school, you're talking about like rich white kids. You know what I mean? and so that it was completely different than what I was used to.
Yeah.
And I almost felt like really out of place, to be honest. But that was so good for me in retrospect, because I got out of my fucking bubble. And it's like, boom, like, here's life, actually. And it's a humbling experience. Yeah. So I find that, like, if you're paying attention and you're actually, a good soul, right, which I think most people are, life will humble you when you need it, you know? And that constantly happens, right? That constantly happens. It's like a cycle. It's beautiful. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, so you know, I wasn't the best. What's that?
Where'd you go to study there? What was your major?
So hotel administration and commercial real estate.
Oh,
so
good.
it was like the hospitality. So I wanted to, you know, I would be in hotels. I actually ended up there. I'm originally like inherently I'm a math and science person.
Really?
So like I'm very good with math. And so I actually went into engineering, believe it or not.
Shit.
Yeah, but I quickly realized, I was like, holy shit, like I did not belong here.
That's tough.
And it was a little too intense, I'm not gonna lie. But I'm so glad I did, and I went to kind of more of like a business type of a major.
Okay.
Because, you know, the hotels school there is like the best in the world.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much like a business school though, you know. So, you know, we did the finance, we did the accounting, right? We did, you know, economics, right? All that stuff. And so, yeah, it was good though.
So you left high school, you go to Cornell to first study hospitality and commercial real estate. You kind of dabbled in engineering.
Yeah.
How important you run a business now, you have a couple businesses, I think, like with consulting stuff, you like have that, like how big of an impact was school in your life? And what would you say to the people who have the dedication and will to do well, but don't believe in school?
That's such a good question, right? I love this question because here's what I genuinely believe, right? You can get a lot out of college if you put solid intentions towards it. But again, this is coming from me. Like I went to one of the best schools in the nation, and I don't think it's necessary.
Really?
I don't think it's necessary. I mean, I think it could polish you up a little bit more, but I think most of that time is, I mean, if you look at 99% of the population in college, like they're fucking around. Let's be real. Everybody's fucking around. Like they're not really giving it that, you know, that attention that it deserves. A lot of people are there because their parents want them to be there. It's traditional. It's the way. It's the path. It's the
American way.
It's the mold. Yes. Stay in your lane. Stay in this lane because this is how, you know, this is how you have to be successful. You go to school, go to college, get a job, you know, and work for 40 years and retire and then, you know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's very traditional. But here's the thing. Like back in the day, let's say like, you know, when colleges were first getting founded, early 1900s, you know, late 1800s, you know, things like that, like when education was actually valued so much and we didn't have the internet, then yes, like back in those days, hugely helpful. But now that we have the internet, bro, you can learn anything that you want on the fucking internet, right?
Yeah.
And if you have the discipline and the tenacity and the drive to do so, like you can learn literally anything that you want from books and from the internet.
And a lot quicker.
What's that?
And a lot quicker too.
Yeah. And but the reality is like socially, college is a good experience.
Yeah.
And so I don't just look at like I think a lot of people, especially in the entrepreneur world, in the business world, and in this country in general, and in this world in general, let's say, a lot of people just think surface level, right? And so I'm not just thinking like, okay, on a business level or on a financial level, like, is this good overall? The reality is I think college is great socially, right? I think it forces you to, especially like if you're going somewhere where you don't know a lot of people like I did,
gotta get out of your
It can be really good for you. It can be very, very good for you to get out of your comfort zone, to go out and meet a bunch of people, right? And to really get out of your shell.
That's awesome.
You know, now some people go to state schools and it's a little different because they know a bunch of people there. I had an opportunity to go to UVA, which a bunch of my friends were going to UVA, but I chose Cornell, right? One, because it was a better school, but yeah, like, you know, I went there, I knew nobody. I literally didn't know anybody, and so I was forced to do that.
And what would you say to the people? What would you say to? I'm sure you've gotten this too, right? someone wants to get into business. It could be wholesaling, it could be investing, it could be cryptocurrency, whatever business. They're young, you know, probably they either have the choice to stay in college or they have the choice to venture off and try something, but they've never succeeded at anything in the past. And they're going more towards the direction of, I don't want to go to school, but they've never really succeeded at anything. It's still okay. But like, what would you say to that person if they're like talking to you and say, yo, Joe, I'm in school and I hate it. I want to go pursue this thing. I've never really done anything cool in the past. I haven't succeeded at anything. Like, what would you say to that person? You know, like, is there hope for them? You know, what can they do? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
How can they eventually be in like a position like yours, or how can they eventually be like living a better life?
For sure. All right. So
I'm making you think this Friday, bro.
Such a great, no, dude, I can have these conversations all day. I love them. Here's the reality, right? All right. I can hit this on a bunch of different levels, right? And I'll refrain from something because I feel like most people aren't there. Because I'm constantly like spiritually progressing. Right. And so I see life a lot differently than most people. Right. And what I'll say to that is there is a reason for every season. Okay. Wherever you are, you're literally supposed to be there. Okay. Now, it's possible to, like, once you start to realize how the laws of this world work, right? I'm not talking about gravity. I'm talking about there's certain laws at play that we can't see. Right. If you put your intention towards something, right, you're much higher likelihood of actually getting there, right? You know, it's called the law of attraction, right? Yeah. So the reality is you can attract to you like what you truly desire. If you're living in alignment with that, this is what I fully believe, like things will start to come to you. So if you're supposed to, if you're not supposed to be in school, like, and you are going to go off doing this other venture, for example, I think things will align as long as you're paying attention and you're putting intention towards things. You're not just like complaining, you know, you're not just like partying all the time. You know what I mean? Like you're actually legitimately putting intention towards like, all right, I want a better life. And so because of that, you know, I want something I want to attract something that I'm actually passionate about. I think like that's possible to do that even at a young age. Even
if they've never succeeded at anything.
Absolutely, for sure. Well, reality is like, okay, and you'll find this. I'm always doing this, but like,
spinning
what is success, right? Like that's something that you have to define for yourself, right? Success on the tangible, superficial, surface level perspective is like, all right, do you have a good career, or do you have a good business, and are you making money, and are you, that's what most people say success is, right? But there are like, I think success is a mindset, it's a mentality, and it's overall quality of life, right?
I like that.
If you think about it, like all these external things, it's all fucking bullshit. Okay, it's all bullshit, right? And this is coming from me. I have a beautiful car, you know, a nice apartment, like, you know. But all those things that most people are chasing, they don't give them the actual, like, what they're actually looking for, right? And so what you're really looking for is internal peace, right? Being complete and whole with who you are, and internal growth, right? And, you know, it's that balance between, you know, that which is, I think, is stemmed from an area of self-love, which I think is what everyone's goal should be. And nobody is actually paying attention to this shit because they're distracted by the external. When you're distracted by the external, you're not even paying attention to what your soul actually wants.
Yeah.
You know? And so like, I think like that's the goal, to start being really, really in tune with what your soul actually wants. Right. And, you know, the reality is like someone that is making 50,000 a year could be just as happy, probably even happier. This is the reality. They could be even happier than someone that is making 10 million a year, right? That's stressed, and, you know, they're always comparing themselves even at that level. And they still have a fear of
Loss,
being broke, a fear of loss. They have all of this stuff, right? And someone could be very, very content, perfectly happy, have great relationships, and be very successful, right? Have a very, very high quality of life at that level. So like, I want to change the way that we approach success, right? As a collective. And again, this is coming from me. Like, I've built 2 7-figure businesses, and I'm already 28. And I'm thankful that at a young age, I'm able to see, like, hey, this is not it, right? Like, so I'm big into meditation, right? I'm huge. Like, meditation changed my life, okay? And I can get way more joy, way more peace, way more real, like a genuine sense of love, literally by meditating, than by making $1 million, right? And then what happens is I cultivate that over time, and that becomes who I am. And when that becomes who I am, like, I'm literally a living, breathing, like, just walking, I guess, light, you can say.
Yeah.
And I'm giving that to others, right? And I'm giving that from a place of wholeness. And I think, like, and I'm sorry I went on a complete tangent here, but I think we have it all wrong. Like, our world is so focused on the externals. And I think that if you focus on the internals, then your soul, right? This is what I believe, and this is what I've literally seen and listened to. Your soul will guide you
to the right place.
Right? Or you can call it, different religions call it different things and different beliefs, right? God will guide you. You know what I mean? And you just have to be paying attention.
So
pay attention. What's that? Go ahead.
No, that's good. So like, it was, that's like it's deep, man, which is good. I feel like that's how I can describe it. But I love those conversations, man, because that's like actually real shit that, whether you believe it or not, it's like real shit that's out there, right? And it impacts people in real ways. And what I took from that was, you have this person that wants to get somewhere. They're between 2 tough decisions, either stay in school in this case, and kind of like what I'm getting was, dude, set your intention on whatever you want to do from the inside, right? Like, don't stay in school because your parents. Don't stay in school because they're telling you what to do. But at the same time, don't go get into business because you want a Ferrari, or don't get into business because you want to impress, a girl or some shit, right? Like, choose what you want to do, set the intention, and just go.
Well, I'm gonna add to that, right? Because I'm not saying don't do that. That's the thing, right?
Right.
So we as humans were obsessed with duality. All right, this is good, this is bad. Do this, don't do this, right?
Okay.
And kind of from a spiritual context, the reality is, like, it is what it is, right? And there's a such thing as non-duality, which I'm not going to get into, but but essentially, I'm not even saying don't do that. It might be that person's path to build a business because he wants that Ferrari. Yep. To build a business because he wants to get that girl, right? That was my path.
Yep. When
I was young, when I was superficial.
That's what I wanted to get into that. Like, you've been at that, like, 7-figure, or like you've been at a successful and an income basis per median American. So you've been at, like, a higher level of income per median when you were not thinking this way. So like spiritually, and then now you're here and you're thinking this way. What would you say is like the big difference between those two worlds that you lived in?
Oh man, massive difference, right? Like when you live from a place of self-awareness, from a place of connection to something greater than you, when you live from a place of wholeness, right? To where like I'm already good. I don't need the Ferrari because it's not gonna complete me. I'm already freaking complete. It sounds corny, but I swear to God, this is the key. This is the fucking key. I don't need the Ferrari. Literally, like I have I have a nice car, right? I have an R8, but I really could care less about it.
Yeah.
Like I really don't care about it. Like I could sell it tomorrow and I would be fine.
Yeah.
You know? And that's awesome. It's awesome to say that, right? But 5 years ago, me would have been like,
I need that shit.
nah, dude, like this is your identity. This is your identity. This is who you are. If you don't have, how are people going to know that you're successful? Yeah. How are people going to like you? How are people going to approve of you?
Right.
You know? And I was listening to this podcast with Avi Marcus and I forgot who else it was.
I've listened to that, yeah.
But there was this guy he was talking with, and he had a very similar story to what I have. Right? He had the nice things, and then he realized that wasn't it at all. But they were saying like they were questioning it, right? Like one thing that when you start to really progress on a spiritual and mental level, you start to realize like the more that you know, the less that you know. Right? Like, and what I mean by that is like, the more that you discover in your personal life, the more that you realize there's so much more that you don't know. Right? And so what that does to people that are actually in tune and paying attention is that it makes you way more, it makes you humble immediately. Right? And there are a lot of people in this world that are very like, hey, this is the right way. It's this way. You know, and they're very, very set on that. But all they're doing is they're projecting their own insecurities in a form of, hey, this is right, listen to me.
Right.
You know? And so
open-mindedness or
absolutely, yeah. And so the more I think open-mindedness is one of the indicators of true growth, how open-minded you are.
Yeah.
And so when I say anything that I say, you'll notice like this, and for those of you who are listening, if you rewind this whole thing and play from the beginning, I'm never saying this is the right way.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of people that are listening to podcasts, they love to just like, hey, tell me what to do and I'll do it. The reality is like I said, there's reasons for everything. And, there's not ever like one right way. Right. That's why religion is kind of fucking up the world. Right. I'm incredibly spiritual. I believe in God. I just don't believe in religion. Right. I don't believe in the divisiveness. I think we're all tapping into a higher, source. But again, I won't digress into that. Yeah. But kind of to bring it back, you asked me, oh shoot! I lost my train of thought.
So like you were like at a high point income wise,
yes.
Here and here, non-spiritual, with the right mindset.
Right.
Because the reason I asked this question is like, I think it's more some young guys, and that's okay because we're relatively young, and we were young. We were both probably pretty young when we started. And we were thinking the same shit. I want to make some money to buy a nice Porsche, a Ferrari, an R8. I want to live in a dope condo. I want to go out and pop bottles, whatever it is. But and that's why that was like our push to start and make money. And that's okay for a certain time, or maybe for a longer time. Everyone's journey is different.
Yeah.
The reason I ask this is like, why? What I want to get at is like, why should people pay attention to mindset and intention? Like, why is that important? Why is it just not enough that I go on appointments, or why is it just not that I make enough calls to get deals? Like, why is it more important for me to actually have mindset right, or have intention right, or have like my spirituality or my self-worth right? Like, why isn't it even important? Why can't I just go out there and make some money?
Because that's everything. The externals, like I was saying, the money, right? Closing the deals, right? And, I've closed hundreds of deals in my lifetime. I've closed a $300,000 deal before, right? The reality is none of that shit even matters. That stuff doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. It's kind of just like an event. Okay, it happens in this whole realm of possibilities, right? And there's a great book, by the way, and we can come back to book recommendations after, which I'll name a ton of great, amazing books. But one of the books that I highly recommend is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And so that book will completely revolutionize the way that you think, right? And essentially, in that book, he talks about the quantum field, right? Okay, so he takes a very scientific perspective to spirituality, and I love that. And he talks about there's an infinite amount of possibilities in that exists in the quantum field, right? And he talks about, I guess, his version of the law of attraction. You manifest, your ability to manifest something is like grabbing that possibility from the infinite amount of possibilities. You grab that possibility and then you bring it into manifestation, right? You manifest it into reality. But essentially what I'm saying is there's an infinite amount of possibilities in the quantum field, in the quantum realm, right? And bringing it back, you were asking why is it important?
Yeah.
Why is it important, right? And so the reality is again, all those things are just literally just events that happen. They're events that happen in the quantum field, right? And that they come into reality. But that's all it is, right? But all of life, your quality of life, overall, your happiness, I think, and I've experienced, is determined by your emotional states of mind, your states of mind, not emotional. Let me take that back, but your states of mind, right? A collective sum of your states of mind. So if you're constantly feeling low energy, if you're constantly feeling, depressed, if you're constantly feeling, lonely or sad or mad or angry, you're going to not have a good quality of life, right? Clearly, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, if you, on the contrary, if you're consistently happy, right, you have a ton of energy, you're motivated, you're passionate, you're inspired, right? And, if you're constantly in those states of mind, you're grateful. You're in, what Tony Robbins calls this beautiful states. If you're constantly in beautiful states, your quality of life is going to be very high, right? You're going to have a good life.
Yeah.
And so when you attach your quality of life or your happiness, you attach that to something external, which is what most entrepreneurs do, then it's going to be a constant fucking up and down. And I still go through this, by the way. Okay. I still go through this, right? Owning businesses, it's no walk in the park, right? You have to constantly monitor. But if you let that run wild without being aware of what it's doing to you internally, you're never going to be grounded. You're going to be oh yeah, we just closed this big ass deal. We're doing good. And then you have a bad month or you have a bad quarter. And then all of a sudden your self-worth is not there. And then your confidence goes down. And it's kind of spirals, right?
That's a good one.
So instead of playing this crazy, roller coaster up and down to where your emotions are spiraling down and spiraling back up, you need to have a good solid ground that doesn't change. And that's why mindset is, that's why it's literally everything.
I love that.
That's everything.
Yeah.
And like success is not having a business and making $1 million. That's not success. Okay. That's not, it can be if that's what if you label it, but success is a mindset. Success is a state, right? And so if you feel that way, if you feel successful, you're going to create actions in your life that will match up, that will align, right? And, if you feel abundant, you're going to breed abundance into your life. And, whether that's, your job or your business. But the point is, like, you're not attached to that. It's not conditional.
Yeah.
It's not conditioned. Yeah. You know what I mean? So.
No, yeah. That's awesome, man. Because people love the shiny stuff, but then they fail the deep stuff. And it happens to me. It happens to you. Like, it happens to everybody, no matter how much you study this. No one's perfect. But what I love about like the mindset thing that it's awesome is, mindset could not be that important if you want to make, let's say, X amount of money, right? It's a label of $100,000, right? Doesn't mean that equals mindset, but you don't need mindset to get to $100,000, right?
Yeah.
What happens when you get there, or what happens when you fail? There's thoughts that are going to come into your mind, and if you don't have a good grounded state of what you're thinking, then you're just going to let that $100,000 thing affect your next move, affect your next thought, affect your next actions, either for the better or for the worse. And you rather, instead of allowing this $100,000 to let you affect actions, you rather just be unaffected and just do whatever you feel like should be done.
Yeah, exactly. But the key there is doing what, all right, so basically there is this idea of your true self, right? Which is, in what I believe it's just consciousness, right? Like, we are conscious beings, right. But over time, as we get older, starting from when we're, 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, we start tacking on these identities, and we start tacking on these layers of conditioning, right? These layers and layers and layers of social conditioning. All right, so let me give you some examples. Okay, I'm Hispanic, and so I don't feel as up to par, let's say, as someone else. Let's say, for example, right? That's a condition that society places. And all minorities go through this, right? Let's say I live in America, right? So like, I want to be successful, right? And I need to make a lot of money. And that's another condition that's conditioned upon me by society. Yeah. Right? And all of these conditions are so thickly layered into our brain. They're kind of like wired there. And so we have these conditions of like what we think that we need to be. These conditions create identities. So we have all these identities that we think that we need to be, right? And then there's the true self that like is completely suppressed, because there's like, it's like powered, like it's just like there's so much weight of conditioning on it. That's like this true self that's completely suppressed. Yeah. But one thing that you can do in meditation is, one, become aware that there is a true self, which I think is the soul. And, there's this conditioned self. Oh, but I need to make some money. But like, I'm a man, so I need to have this and this. Yeah. There's so many, like, there's literally infinite amount of like conditions that we've been conditioned to embody. Like, oh, this is us. That's me. That's my identity, right? So the reality is, like, when you're able to come from that true self place, anything that comes from that is going to be pure, I believe. And I think driving from there, I literally just did a meditation the other day, and I was like almost asking like my soul. I was like, all right, well, what should I do right now? Boom, it gave me like 4 things, right? And there's obviously practices. Comes from, years of like practicing meditation. Like someone that's going to be able to jump in and just
like, I got it all figured out.
Yeah, but there are definitely like resources that you can get to. But when you come from that place, and some people call it, God, some people call it consciousness, whatever. When you're coming from that place, I believe like that whatever that is knows what you want and knows what you want to do, and you follow that, and boom, like, that's where you're always going to get like where you're supposed to be from. So,
dude, this is.
I had no idea we would be taking it here, bro.
Flipping houses, everybody. No, just kidding.
And that's how you flip houses.
This is what it takes. You got to read 18 books of Eckhart Tolle and.
No, but real talk though, like, here, you know what really makes me even more like passionate is like, let's be real, like, there's an epidemic going on that no one's talking about, and that's like everybody is like insecure nowadays.
Yep.
Okay. Because like there's like record levels of insecurity, which leads to depression. It leads to anger. It leads to all these low quality mental states.
The slow like vibrations. Slow vibration.
Yeah, absolutely. And so like clearly the majority way, like the way that the pack is walking, like clearly like they're not doing it right. Right. Yeah. Also, like they spend most of their waking day doing something that they don't like, not living empowered lives, not being passionate about what they do, not living like completely in love, both with themselves, the world, life, with others in general. And so I'm like, all right, there's got to be a fucking better way, right? Yeah. So I went through this personal mentorship last year. I really started to dig into more self-awareness, which led me to, really digging into more of that spiritual path. And that's when I realized, like, yo, all this shit is a fucking illusion. Like, all of this is an illusion. All that matters, literally, is like how you, the life that you live internally. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's good, man. No, it is. Like, I feel like the people listening who are ready to ingest this information will really like this, and the people who are not ready won't. And that's okay.
Sure. But also give some tangible stuff for the people that are not ready. Like I can give, specific strategies on like what I do on a daily basis, how I'm very productive, what business strategies I use to scale my business. And I think that'd be cool to obviously do like another episode or something.
But yeah, dude, I think like the people who really like are ready to listen to this or are into it in some way, who really enjoy this, coming from, someone who's apart from this is someone who's like actually doing deals, who's actually in the business for a while,